Well, since Nigeria removed fuel subsidies, petrol prices have been riding the waves of both global oil trends and our own market realities, in some places hitting over 1,000 per litre. Well, in the Niger Delta, where the crude is pumped, but poverty is still not defeated, this shift has real consequences for livelihoods, food security, and even mobility. And to discuss the dynamics of petrol pricing and impact on the Niger Delta region, we're joined by someone with hands-on insights on the current situation. Himself a former 2023 Bayelsa State governorship candidate, and talking about Udengs Eradiri. Welcome to Niger Delta.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. I'll just take the first shot. So thank you for joining us. The issue for conversation today is fuel pricing, petrol pricing in the country, and to what extent this has influenced the changes that were hoped to be seen in the sector. Well, when President Tinubu took over the helms of affairs, he had promised that with the removal of fuel subsidy, this is going to bring about some considerable impacts on the oil market, bringing about the needed gains for the people, especially the Niger Delta region where the entire oil is being gotten. Now, when we look at the current situation and petrol pricing generally in the country today, what specific changes or gains would you say we have been able to achieve, or is there still a lot that's left to be done?
First of all, the fuel subsidy have brought about its own activities. Now, whether those activities are bringing the desired result that Nigerians expect is another debate to engage in. But first of all, if you look at the pricing, even though it is high based on where Nigerians are coming from, it has made the availability of petroleum products seemingly unhindered. You can now have fuel virtually in every part of the country, but the pricing is now affected by the distance from the source of the product. As it stands, the Dangote refinery is the major source of petroleum products around the country at this time. And for that reason, because Dangote is producing in country, every other month, it seems to be tweaking with the pricing, which in most cases reduces the cost from what it used to be. We used to buy as much as 1,200, 1,300 per litre in the Niger Delta. But as I speak to you, in Yenegua, you buy as low as 960, 940, depending on where the marketer got his product. If you are going into the riverine areas, then you begin to talk about 1,000 and further, because those NNPC facilities are not delivering the same kind of fuel that Dangote is releasing to the market through Shafa and Rano filling stations. These two filling stations are getting directly from the Dangote refinery, and so the prices are actually lower. And then if you look at the quality of product, people have more confidence in what is produced in country. So if you talk about availability, yes, it's beginning to be available, but the prices differ according to the distance from Lagos. If you look at it, Lagos has the cheapest petroleum products at the moment because the refinery is domiciled there. So what we expect is that the NNPC must ensure that its refineries come on stream so that there will be enough competition that will drive down the prices. Other modular refineries must be encouraged to continue to produce or to begin the production. I know where there's one in Bayelsa, there is in Port Harcourt. Once the production point is closer to the end user, it will moderate the price. The enormous amount of money that the governors are now receiving as a result of the removal of subsidy. But these monies are not now injected into the local economies. And that's where you still see the complaints that are coming up from the masses. If we are able to produce more, it will reduce the costs. The pipeline vandalization that is going on is the country is not able to produce petroleum products, and there is a quest to fill that vacuum. That's why people are breaking pipes here and there. Once we start to produce NNPC is producing, private refineries are producing, there will be no need to go and be breaking pipelines when the product is everywhere. So that's one benefit the country is going to get. The second is that the governors must be checked so that the excess money they get is now injected back into their economies. What you can see, they are all preparing for 2027 elections. So most of that money that should go to the people is being stacked for the political interest.
Mr. Udengs, we understand that the Niger Delta region is where the crude oil is taken for the refineries. And regardless of the situations around, we understand in Lagos, fuel is sold at 9.15, in Abuja 9.45, in Akwa Ibom and some other states in the region, it is as high as 955 naira, or some places higher than that. Well, this is where the oil is taken. Shouldn't there be some form of consideration for the people of the region, the people who lay the golden egg? This is a consideration for the people of the region.
No, there's not going to be any consideration. The consideration used to be fuel subsidy. They have removed it. If there's going to be any consideration, the refineries that are located in the Niger Delta must produce. But because of corrupt abuse of power, the refineries have found themselves, because they're in the management of the NNPC. I don't know what the new NNPC will be doing, but the old NNPC had their neck deep in the corruption in order to fund and support their cabals that were importing products from outside the country. Obviously, it would not be good producing. So, NNPC officials in connivance with this cabal that was involved in fuel importation were the ones responsible for these refineries not producing. So the only condition or consideration for the people from Niger Delta that produce is that the facilities located in the region must begin to produce the product so that it can now be easily accessible to the people. Lagos, petrol products are cheap in Lagos because there is a refinery in Lagos owned by Dangote that is producing. So it is easier. Instead of adding the trucking cost, you can just easily get the product. But if we don't produce, then we also receive from Lagos. The logistics of moving it is what will increase the price here. So the only consolation for those of us in the Niger Delta where we produce the oil is that refineries were built here. Those refineries must begin to function optimally so that the products may be available to those in the Niger Delta. We cannot be buying petroleum products the same price as those in Borno State.
All right, Mr. Eradiri. Well, just as we begin to wind down the conversation now, the NNPCL had earlier come out to say that they were considering all options on the table, which was also inclusive of selling of the refineries. Eventually, they came back again and were of the opinion that the refineries are no longer for sale. What do you make of all of these back and forth, especially with the conversations around rehabilitation of the refineries? Much talked about rehabilitations and all of the monies that have been sunk in. How far-reaching is this effect on the crisis we're having currently when we talk about petrol pricing in the Niger Delta region?
You know, look, these corrupt forces are still within the management of NNPC and government. Asiwaju, who is the president of the country, who is known for taking hard decisions, just as he did in removal of subsidies, must take this decision to sell off those refineries and let federal government buy shares in it. I give you a simple example. NAFCON, the Nigerian fertilizer company, and the refineries are two state-owned infrastructure that was put up for sale. They sold the fertilizer company to Indorama and then couldn't sell the NNPC. As you speak, Indorama is making a lot of money, producing, creating an economy. A lot of people from Eleme's life have changed because the Indorama, which is one wing of the federal government to private individual, it is functioning optimally. The NNPC and the refinery, on the other hand, these are two federal government infrastructure that face each other. They sold one and were successful in the decision. It is producing over 25 years today, creating economy, developing the place. while the other one that is the same facility owned by the same federal government that is run by civil servants have been run aground and have become an embarrassment to our nation. These are two examples that when you put it in the face of the public, no sane mind will argue that we'll continue to manage that NNPC, where you spend billions without producing a dime, and every year we are owing staff salary. Clearly, the Indorama is a good example. The fertilizer plant in Port Harcourt is a good example of a successful sale of federal government infrastructure versus the one that have refused to be sold out, and it's every day emerged.
But what is the certainty that when sold, or if sold, this will further bring about some renovation in the oil and gas sector? Now, putting side by side the power sector, we've seen how the power sector is still functioning epileptically. So what can be put in place to ensure that if sold, this can bring about maximum productivity for the people of the country?
My dear, ADBN, your state is a private owned. If you not do your work, you go their house. It's as simple as that. But because it's NTA is a government institution, some people come to work when they like. There is no gainsaying about it. Said having you the Indorama fertilizer plant example. These are two institutions that were built by the same federal government, the same location.
All right. Mr. Udengs Eradiri, a former 2023 Bielsa governorship candidate, speaking to us on the issue of petrol pricing in the country and the ripple effect it is having on everything. Talk about food, transportation, and what have you. Well, Mr. Udengs Eradiri, we would have to dock the conversation here, but we're going to extract a commitment that would bring you back on this particular issue to further bring us insights regarding the petrol sector, the oil and gas sector generally in the country, and efforts that must be made towards ensuring that the needed changes are visible as much as possible, which would of course positively affect the lives of persons living in the Niger Delta region and across the country. Thank you for coming on Niger Delta today.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, so that's the size of Niger Delta today. I'll catch you again tomorrow for another fresh edition. My name is Xavier Roberts, wishing you a terrific afternoon.
And I am Jennifer Pius. Thanks for being a part. Have a great day.